All right, you ready?
Yeah, let it rip. Oh my, oh. What did you do?
At last, a decade-long dream finally came true. I would never call my grandfather a car guy. He was more of an RV person. Although he once had a Hornet Sportabout, making us the only family members that I know of who both owned AMCs. But like most grandparents who listen with enthusiasm when you show them your latest childhood obsession, I have the feeling that my grandfather mostly cared about cars because he saw how much I cared. When I first discovered Disney's Herbie movies as a child, I would take my VHS tapes to my grandparents' house and watch them over and over and over again.
The love bug scene.
Okay, a love bug, yeah.
At the time, very little Herbie merchandise existed, so when my grandma bought me a generic VW Beetle Christmas ornament, my grandpa, a talented artist, hand-painted stripes and a 53 on it. I still hang it on the tree every year. As I grew up, my grandfather told me stories of a fantastic inventor named Nikola Tesla, a Serb living in Croatia who immigrated to the United States just like my grandfather's parents. My grandpa even claimed we were related to Tesla. When I first heard this, Nikola Tesla had not yet become an internet celebrity. He was a mere footnote in textbooks, a peculiar inventor behind the alternating current induction motor, overshadowed by Thomas Edison and Henry Ford and whoever else they teach you about in elementary school. Because of this, my grandfather took particular pride in the Tesla story, and so did I.
As a little boy, I found Tesla fascinating, and I wanted to grow up to be just like him until I realized I wasn't smart enough to be an inventor, and instead I make videos on the internet.
Realizing this love of machines, my mom bought my brother and me an educational computer game called Gizmos and Gadgets, which taught basic science through building and racing different vehicles. I personally enjoyed the alternative energy levels, where you had to find the best parts for different kinds of electric cars. But as a kid, real-life electric cars always seemed so far away. Yeah, you had the GM EV1 and a handful of other specialty vehicles, but practical EVs were perpetually in the future.
So years go by, I get older, I'm in high school, I'm starting to get interested in actually, saving up to buy my first car. And somebody tells me about this company called Tesla Motors. And of course, the Tesla connection, I'm like super excited. I'm like, there's a company named after Tesla and they're gonna build electric cars? And this had to have been like 2007, maybe 2006.
The founders named the company after Nikola Tesla, of course, because they used AC induction motors to power their cars. The company's first vehicle, the Tesla Roadster, wasn't even on sale yet, but they claimed over 200 miles to a charge and 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. Compared to other EVs of the time, those numbers were insane. Simultaneously, the rest of the world had rediscovered the eccentric Serbian inventor, elevating him to cult hero status in the funny way that the internet tends to rewrite history.
And I remember going on to CNN.com on our dial-up internet and printing off an article about how this company called Tesla Motors was looking to build a factory in the American Southwest, maybe New Mexico, where they could build their new electric car, which at the time was codenamed White Star and would eventually become the Model S.
At that age, there were lots of cars that teenage Joe dreamed about owning, but there was something different about a Tesla. Of course, I told my grandpa about the cars, and he was excited too. I promised him that one day, we'd buy one and drive around in it together. Over the next decade, it was exciting to see Tesla grow from plucky startup to legitimate car manufacturer. But like somebody who discovers a great musician early in their career, only to see bandwagon fans come along later, I felt envious of the growing number of Tesla owners, with their gushing reviews and clickbait YouTube videos about ludicrous mode. After all, I had followed the company almost from the beginning, before Elon Musk became a Twitter celebrity, before the Model S won Motor Trend Car of the Year, before their first car even went on sale. Yet, I still didn't have one.
So I continued to talk to my grandpa about Tesla, but I began to realize my dream of owning one might be a little bit further away than I thought, just because the Model S was so expensive and the Model 3 was still years away, and just life gets in the way and you wind up doing other stuff, and buying an electric car maybe isn't the number one priority. It just seemed out of reach.
Meanwhile, my grandfather's loyal viewership of cable news garbage meant he often saw overblown stories about Tesla, which he'd bring up to me whenever we talked on the phone. I'd try my best to set him straight, and just like when I was little, he'd patiently listen to me ramble on. A lot changed in 2017. My grandparents moved out of the house they'd lived in for 55 years and closer to my parents. There were a lot of doctor's visits and unanswered questions. Also, Tesla finally launched the Model 3. By 2018, I felt a sense of urgency. I wanted to keep my promise.
But I had the idea, what if I could just borrow one? But then I started thinking, well, what do you do? Just hang around a supercharger and accost an owner when he pulls up? I don't know anybody who has a Tesla. None of my friends or family have one.
So I looked into renting a Tesla and discovered this 2018 Model 3 on the car-sharing website Turo. It was located in State College, Pennsylvania, and after planning with my brother about battery range and supercharger locations, we decided we could do it. After 10 years of waiting, my grandpa and I finally got to ride in a Tesla.
Fantastic. Let it rip, buddy. I never had one of these before. I love it. Oh my goodness, quiet as nothing.
Within the first mile, he'd expressed his approval.
Oh, this is fantastic. This is the way to live, Joe. This is the life.
With a single rear motor and the long-range battery, this Model 3 is one of the slower Teslas. However, for a man whose personal vehicles included a VW Super Beetle, Ford Tempo, and several motorhomes, this felt plenty fast.
Oh, like a jet airplane. 60 mile an hour, no time flat.
Of course, after all this time, we couldn't drive this car without mentioning the man it was named after.
What's our connection to Nikola Tesla? I don't remember that. How are we related to him?
My mother is his first cousin. Now, we then fall in line after that. We're first cousins, so many removed.
Yeah. So we actually are related to him then.
Oh yeah, we are related to Tesla.
Do you think we got any of his brains?
Given my many opinions about this car, I produced a separate test drive video where I go more in depth. As for my grandpa, he loved everything about the Model 3. From its quick acceleration to its nearly silent powertrain to even the giant touchscreen. He especially enjoyed the whoopee cushion. It's funny how a 15-minute ride can mean so much, especially when you've been waiting 10 years.
This is such a blessing for me to ride the Tesla, man. Woo!
Never thought it would happen.
No, never thought that would ever happen.
When I visited my grandparents a few months later, without the Tesla, he had a lot of trouble catching his breath. Simply talking took a lot of effort, but he'd been watching the news again and asked me how the US was keeping up with China's battery technology. Before I left, he made a point of mentioning how proud he was and how much he loved us. I called a few weeks after that and told him about a carrot cake I made for a coworker. He said it sounded delicious, but then started coughing, and my grandmother had to take the phone. I knew then that he knew. A week later, it happened. Part of the reason I love cars so much is because they bring people together. Even though he's gone, I'll always treasure my last ride with Pap-Pap. He had faced the inevitable with such bravery. There was confidence, perhaps even excitement, that after a fulfilling life on earth, he was finally going to meet Jesus. His only regret was that his wife of 58 years would be alone without him. If only we could all have such courage. The morning after he passed, I saw a VW Beetle with stripes and a 53 on it.